Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diane Cohen, and I'm the Vice President of Client Relations for MacroPro. Today, we are going to be doing a coffee break with you. We're going to talk a bit about what is going on with your records and COVID-19 because a lot of changes have happened. I'd like to point out that there are some handouts to this program today, and you can download them. In addition to that, you are able to ask questions. So if you have some questions, please go over to the chat bar and put your questions in, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. Today's program is designed 100% around the questions that we have been getting from our clients, and we believe that these questions are important and you should also know what the answers are. So we're going to be sharing that with you. I am here with my colleagues today, and I'd like to introduce my team that is part of this webinar today. Heidi Cornell, she is a regional manager and she is an operational expert. Drew Davis, he has been in the industry for 10 years and has a lot of knowledge to impart. And of course, I'm Diane Cohen. I've been with MacroPro for 22 years, and I head up the educational department for our clients. So I'm going to turn this over to Drew. Drew's going to ask us some questions, and hopefully the information will be very, very helpful to you. And again, go ahead and ask us questions to the chat bar. All right, Drew, let's hand that over to you.
Thank you, Diane, for the introduction. So one of the questions that we've been receiving is what's going on with the court. So I'm going to direct that to Heidi. And Heidi, if you can give us a little bit of feedback of what's going on and help our listeners and our clients.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Drew. First, I just want to acknowledge that as soon as we went live with this webinar, my picture went really dark. And I don't know why that just happened, but I'm just going to have to go with the flow, and I apologize. It must be my broadband, or it's certainly not the lighting because I have a ton of light in here right now. Okay, so back to the questions, the important stuff. What are the courts saying? When the pandemic started in mid-March, we really weren't sure what was going to be happening with the court system and with the discovery process. And by the end of March, the Chief Justice of California came out with an order and stated a lot of things for a lot of different parts of the courts. But the two that really stood out to me that pertain to our industry is one, trials are to be continued for a minimum of 60 days, and also really endorsing and pushing the use of technology in order to protect the health and safety and welfare of not only the staff within the court system, but the public in general and all those, trying to get court business done. And that, of course, pertains to us. Oh, you know what else? I just printed off today, this afternoon, was something that came out. So after the Chief Justice came out with this order, the different courts, the different superior courts in California have come out with some of their own interpretations and rules. The lists are all different. I particularly have been interested in San Francisco because they have been extremely detailed with their interpretations, and they just put out something on April 17th that mandates electronic service of documents in most civil cases. So if you're wondering, if you can be doing that with anything that has to do with the discovery process, you certainly can, and we'll see how we can adopt that into what we're doing.
Heidi, another question that comes up is if subpoenas are, if records can be subpoenaed. I mean, are we be able to get in touch with the custodians and serve those subpoenas?
Sure. That's a great question. When COVID-19 first hit, we really weren't sure at MacroPro how that was going to impact our business or the discovery process, our third-party business record subpoenas. And the first thing that we did was we furloughed quite a few employees in our main Long Beach office. It took about a week, and we started to see a lot of our clients making that move from the office to their homes to work remotely. And surprisingly, the orders started to come in, and they started to come in strong, and they really haven't stopped. I mean, we've had a busy last 30 days. And probably within the first 10 days after the shelter-in-place order, we had to call back our furloughed employees in the order entry department. We've got some of them working from home remotely and some of them working within the office so that we can be sure and maintain the social distancing measures that we need to protect people's safety. Probably the most important thing, though, is going along with what the courts have asked us to do in terms of trying to think out of the box and proceed forward, but with everyone's safety in mind, is we started sending all of our subpoenas out served by mail. As most of you probably know, the Civil Code says that they're supposed to be personally served. We do personally serve before this, just about everything, unless the custodian themselves had told us differently. So with the shelter in place order, we pulled our field reps out of the field immediately, and we started serving by mail all the subpoenas. And of course, our workload's really high, so they're all going out.
So that leads to the next question with mailing subpoenas. Are you seeing that any of those are being objected to, and what has been the outcome?
I try and touch base with our home office in Long Beach as much as possible on that. I was really curious if there were going to be any objections as well. It looks like to date everyone's playing very well in the sandbox, and we all have the same objectives, right? Like, we all want to protect the health and safety of everyone working within the facilities and our own staff. So they've been very open to now receiving subpoenas by mail. We've only had a couple quasi-governmental agencies, I think, that have given us a little bit of pushback just because they're trying to work around their own bureaucratic red tape. But whether it's been a subpoena to a facility, a third-party objection or an objection by opposing counsel, we haven't had not one today.
Great information. So my next question is going to be directed to Diane, and something that we're also hearing from clients are the custodians showing up for work? Are they present? Diane, maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
The custodians are showing up to work, but not all of them. When the pandemic, before it became a pandemic, all of the facilities were checking temperatures if those people are non-employees coming in to scan records. The minute that it became a pandemic, they put their pandemic plan into action, which meant they had to shut the doors to any non-employees and non-essential employees at that. We also had a plan for a pandemic. Fortunately, we never thought that we'd ever have to utilize it and execute it, but we were able to do so quite quickly, which allowed us the luxury of being able to work with the different custodians to get records in any form that they would be able to provide it to us. We have an amazing IT department with lots of technology, and so we were able to work with them to get them in the quickest, fastest possible method that they were able to send them to us, whether that is electronically through a secured email. And we all need to keep in mind that records must be sent via secured email, otherwise we're going to be in outside of the HIPAA compliant rules. Whether it's downloads, paper, we were able to accept them from them very quickly. Now, I want to kind of paint a picture for you regarding the custodians. Most people are surprised to find out that there's usually only 1 or 2 people working in a custodial office, no matter how large that office is. So let's say this is their office, and let's say there's 100 copy services coming in to copy records. Those doors are shut. They can't do that. So these poor custodians are no longer just getting the records made available to the people that want to copy them. They are now also doing the work of the people that would come in and scan those records. There's going to be a huge slowdown because of that. You could just imagine what it's going to look like, a little bit like pre-pandemic moments on the 405. You know, you got your really bad heavy traffic at 5 o'clock at evening, and that's kind of what it's looking like, gridlock for them. Having said that, in the beginning, we were only seeing about 25% of all custodians being open. Now we're seeing it's a little bit closer to 50%, but there's still 50% that's not working. So we know that we're getting records, we're getting them as quickly as we possibly can provide them back to you. We actually, as part of our pandemic plan, we have 3 shifts that are working as far as our production department is concerned. They start at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we have 3 shifts working until midnight. Of course, we do everything that we're supposed to do in between shifts, and in between shifts, cleaning and keeping social distancing, etc. And this way we're able to get the records out to our clients as quickly as possible. It's worked really, really well. It's been really fantastic.
Another frequent question, and this is going to be directed towards Heidi, is about customer service, the best way to reach out to our customer service professionals. Heidi, could you elaborate on that and tell them the best way to do that?
Sure. So customer service is a really important part of what we do here at MacroPro, and it's really important to us that we continue to fulfill our promises to our clients, even in light of the current circumstances. We have part of our customer service staff working from home right now and part of them in the office. We're doing our best to maintain that social distancing again, and that's worked out really well. They're still able to take phone calls. They're still able to receive emails from our clients. But what we've run into is that the people working remote don't always have the tools that the people in the office still have. And so depending on the scenario, the issue, what information they're trying to get, it is taking them a bit longer. And we just hope that our clients understand. And my thought is that a lot of people being forced to running into the same kinds of challenges as well.
Well, that's great information. I'm sure that will be very helpful. We'll also want to move on to placing orders. And Diane, maybe you could elaborate on placing orders, the best way to efficiently place orders in this environment.
Yeah, so prior to the pandemic, MacroPro was really happy to take orders any way at all. We used to say we'd take them on a cocktail napkin. Today, that unfortunately isn't the case. We have always allowed clients to email us their orders. They could phone them in, fax them in, any way you wanted to do it, we were more than happy to take. We are asking our clients now to help us help you by ordering online. I put up a copy of our website so you could see that it's really easy to be able to look at information. When you place an order online, there's so many things that you could do. And so the reason we want you to help us help you by putting in the information is once you keep that information into the system, we're able to verify addresses and a few other things to make sure everything is the way it should be. And then we could take that authorization form or that subpoena and serve them very quickly. I mentioned to you earlier that, there are some locations that are closed right now and some that are working on a very slow pace. So by keying the information in, we're going to be able to get your order up towards the front of the queue, especially for those custodians that are not open. They're going to fulfill the orders based on the oldest ones. So if we get that information and we serve it on them, when they come back to work, they're going to start working on those oldest ones, and you're going to be right up at the top of that list. We want to be able to help you get your evidence that you need to determine the value of the claim as quickly as possible. This control panel also shows you a few things. You can see that there's a job number, who the order was for. You can see everything about your claim or your case. You can check the information. You can check statuses online for them. The little tan box there has a little folder in it. When that folder shows up, all the records are in at a glance for that particular case. If you need to authorize an x-ray, if there's a little x-ray that shows up, you need to click onto that to authorize an x-ray. You get the x-ray breakdown on that. And let's say you just had a question. You wanted to know something about that particular case and you didn't know what was going on with it. You could just hit the little mail envelope. Everything about that file would automatically pre-populate, and you only have to ask your question. So we've done everything possible to make it as easy for you to order online, check statuses online. In addition to that, we have a small video clip that if you don't know how to order online, you can watch it and be able to order. I like to say if you graduated the 3rd grade, you can use our website. It's very, very user-friendly. So I'm asking all of you, not only for patients, but if you would please order online, because it will expedite it and make it go faster for you.
That's very helpful information, Diane. So another question that frequently comes up is record delivery. We have clients that like to receive paper. Heidi, could you talk to us about if they can still receive paper records and exactly how that process is going as of now?
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of questions about this as well. A lot of clients still get a hard copy set of the records along with maybe a download or a CD or all three. And in the past, we were able to turn those all around and get them out very, very quickly. We utilize UPS and FedEx. But as you can imagine, with everyone moving home to work remotely, sometimes people are only in the office 1 or 2 times a week, and some offices are completely closed down and have been for 30 days and nobody's going into the office. So it's really been a game changer. And what we've started to do is send things out US Postal Service, because then a signature is not required. But I've even been having, some people having issues with that. And what I want to throw out is, if you haven't used the downloads that we offer, now might be a great time for you to try that out. As the courts have said, they're really encouraging us to utilize technology to the fullest extent. You can get a copy of, still get a hard copy of the records, and if you order it at the same time, a copy by download, it's only $10 no matter how many pages, and it comes OCR'd. And now would be a great time while you're working remotely and under these circumstances to kind of play around with that paperless environment and see if going forward you could make it work for you in your office. Oh, and also we also offer FTP, which is like a direct nightly download into our client systems. A lot of insurance companies use this kind of process, but so do a lot of bigger firms, and that is a great way to go if your IT department is willing to work with our IT department to set that up.
So Heidi, to extend what you were already talking about, a question that I'm sure all of us are getting frequently is turnaround time. So can you elaborate on turnaround time and what we can expect given all these situations?
Sure. Well, immediately after the pandemic started, we continued to get records in. I had clients emailing me going, I can't believe I'm still getting so many of my records in, and that's great. But I think it kind of goes back to what Diane was saying about there only being probably 50 to 60% of the custodians within their facilities right now. As a third-party deposition officer, we can't make the custodians produce the records. We really are at their mercy to produce them to us, however they do it, via mail, via email, via fax, whatever it is. Now, once we get them, the turnaround's very quick because, again, as Diane mentioned, we have, 3 shifts still working in production and things are going all day, every day. But if people don't get back to being fully staffed this next 30 days, I think you're going to really see a decrease in the amount of records coming in, and the turnaround go even lower than it is right now.
Understandable. These are definitely challenging times. I'm going to move to the next slide here, and it's going to it's going to show the link to the video Diane mentioned earlier. So if you've been placing orders via email or calling them in or faxing them in, this is going to be the link that you can watch to have a quick tutorial on how to place an order online. It also lists our phone number and the MacroPro website if you need to get a hold of customer service. And you have reached the end of our coffee break, but we want to thank you all for being here. And we want you also to know that we miss you. We look forward to the future. And one other thing before I got a little bit ahead of myself here is I want to talk about some things that MacroPro offers to help make your load, lighten the workload that you guys currently have, which is some services here, starting with paralegals on staff to handle our out-of-state records or your out-of-state records. For example, if you have a subpoena in California and you need to get records in another state, we can absolutely handle that. We also have subpoena preparation, raising the bar with our online tools, medical summaries. MacroPro has our own nurses that we employ that will create these summaries. We do not outsource this service like a lot of other companies. And we also have a dedicated customer service representative for all of you if you need to phone in or email to answer those questions. And in closing, now you've reached the end of our coffee break. Got ahead of myself. We want everyone to stay healthy and safe out there. We miss you. We look forward to seeing you guys again and being able to meet face to face in the not so distant future. And we hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Unbelievable.